Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Zach of Articulate Warbling. I don't know if Laura's going to sit this one out, or we're going to do another review where me and Laura basically argue the values of this movie I'm about to review. But you know the movie I'm about to review. It's on the title of this video, and it is for the unbearable weight of massive success. Let's give a little bit of back story behind my relationship with Nick Cage and his plethora of movies, his filmography, his career, his identity. When was the last time I watched a Nick Cage movie? The last Nick Cage movie I watched was Prisoners of Ghostland, but that was on Blu-ray. When was the last cinematic event where I watched a Nick Cage movie on the big screen, where a lot of people, fans and non-fans alike, believe that Cage he should be up there, maintaining his star appeal. The last Nick Cage cinematic experience I had on the big screen was, well, Stolen. One of the most weirdest mixed bag types of movies I have ever seen. And going forward, to illustrate this point, I can only demonstrate how oddball and deaf to its own identity, not by merely describing it, but by sharing a clip or an audio extract of this supposedly action heist, Taken-esque drama action thriller. So let's play the music. Did the film composer of this know that he was outright ripping off Robert Rodriguez's theme for Spy Kids? Or one of the secondary themes. Look, it's got a jingle, it's got a jangle, but it does not go with this film. Or maybe it does, in how shockingly bad it was. I can only laugh. As much as Cage has been heralded as one of the most unique talents out there, for his current career trying to pay off ridiculous debts on the castles he purchases, and following roles he can lend himself to, or he's of the belief he can lend himself to, and elevate these pieces, they're straight to DVD, not even B-movie garbage, but D-movie garbage. Nicolas Cage is an actor I've never really had a great affinity for. The movies I've seen him star in, they vary. They vary. I mean, Nick Cage is up there with Bruce Willis as one of the big has-been stars, because they are has-beens. They're following the paper trail. Money. That is easier. And it seems to be, following that easier paper trail, they've lost favour with Hollywood, or favour with the big producers who can pay them those big bucks and ensure that Nick Cage can pay off his debts, or Bruce Willis can buy multiple different properties, or different villas now that he's retired from acting. You would assume that big Hollywood productions would give that big payout, but due to these scattering of straight-to-DVD releases, and following the paper trail, the easier paper trail, on Nick Cage's side, he's fallen out of favour with Hollywood. And Nick Cage has kind of framed this in the parameters of, I've been following character-driven pieces. No, you fucking haven't. You've been following the paper trail because you have so much fucking debt, because you're really bad with money. Money. I've never rated him as a performer in the modern ethos, in the modern, I always say this word, but realm, R-E-A-L-M. Let's put an S at the end. I've never rated him in his modern affairs, specifically not the direct-to-DVD films, but even the ones I saw on big screen. I mean, he was decent enough in Ghost Rider, apart from, the sequel that was made on the cheap. The crazy sequel put out by the crazy crank duo known as Neville Dean and Taylor. A sequel-requel that had promise when Cage wasn't on screen. Look, I'm really fond of that trailer. I'm really fond of that trailer, making wondrous use of Steve Jablonsky's theme from The Island, another underrated gem of a movie. A trailer that is... oh look, once again, better than the finished film. I enjoy Cage as a strange, wacky cartoon character version of himself, or of a version of a celebrity of his calibre who was a star but isn't a star but was a star but can be a star, or is now a decreasing calibre of star. I've never had much of an opinion on him apart from his wacky, warped features. Only using him and his image if and when I needed to wrangle a laugh, a cheap, easy laugh, on one of my videos from using footage of him doing his ticky weird things. I, like most people, love the meme and GIF culture that was spawned basically from Cage and Owen Wilson, and any celebrity that gets distorted and broken down and used in a mock fashion in this horrible, mean machine, which was a trend made cultural, and it's almost a necessary usage now to judge one's moral fibre. If you don't get behind memes or GIFs, you're boring, and it's a mode of communicating to the world how modern you are, in it bruv, and making obvious how happy we are to mock and abuse famous faces and their personas and identities. Pop culture, ladies and gentlemen, pop culture, celeb status, they are so easy to mock. Why are you looking at me? I'm British. If one doesn't take the piss, how can we identify as being buck-toothed, alright, dry, irreverent sorts? It's my right to use Nicolas Cage as a meme and GIF. And I think, though he's not really social media savvy, I think he would appreciate it. Cage is a deep well of warped facial features and performance choices, which we use to better degrees than those of whom made the movie with him, to use to our advantage when making our thoughts known, or attributing it to a, well, movie review like I am. Now, here is one of Cage's first forays into being on a big level, into, getting back into big multiplexes, back on the big screen in a big, big way. And considering how deep and strong Lionsgate have been in marketing and pushing this film, I think it's a statement. Nicolas Cage is back. Hi, I'm Nick Cage. I'm back. Not that I went anywhere. Which is a line used repeatedly in this movie. It's a meta-movie that seems to exist to give Cage some modicum of reasoning behind his film choices over the years, almost made to warrant this feature. All those movies were made so we can take the piss out of them. Though they don't directly take the piss out of them, the intonation and this weird vibe is there. A film giving Cage an avenue to be a little more self-aware, self-critical, but done in a cagey manner, where it still seems as if he hasn't got a modicum of any idea as to behind how fucking awful he's been. So anyway, what are my thoughts on the unbearable weight of massive talent? This is really funny, but issue being, it is strained by a really weak plot, which, if given a larger budget, which this film doesn't have, or a few more character-based scenes where the strength of this film lies, it could have come out as a golden-hued recommendation. Sadly, this film doesn't deserve much praise in the film's look and style and aesthetic, as, it's an action comedy, but with action comedies, the focus is on the comedy and less on the action. It's pretty, standard Hollywood isms. And even though there's supposed action beats, they feel off and look, well, poorly executed. But in the writing and lead performances, this movie is truly great. Admirable, humble, self-aware, charming, pseudo-self-aware, and with the perfect balance of daftness and Nick Cage on-screen idiocy. The real standout star, and I think someone who really pushes Cage out there, almost tempts him to ratchet it up but also rein it in simultaneously, is Pedro Pascal. Oh my god, this guy is the personification of multifaceted. He is a perfect performer. Comedy is his jam, people. And this is true about Nick Cage. So, how about Nick Cage? Well, it's obvious Nick Cage can do comedy, and this being the saddest truth about Nick Cage as an actor, when he is not reining it in and giving it his all, it comes off as hacky and overall comedic. Unintentionally comedic. When he is reined in, balancing out the comedy with drama, he is on an even keel and superb. He is more than happy to play it to those levels, but it doesn't feel as ill-fitting as a certain pair of loafers. This is a joke, of course, calling back to one of the funniest scenes in this movie about the exchanging of footwear. There's a certain aspect about this film where Nick is always at odds with a younger version of himself.
Divine inspiration.
The wild at heart Cage, who is represented as a CGI Botoxed semblance of this other self, this other being, which is inhabiting the characteristics of most of Cage's essence and vibe, which has been most of his quote-unquote on-screen film roles. Though that energy post The Wicker Man. And though this characteristic is in the body of the heyday Nick, it's almost, in a very clever way, pitting Nick against the side of himself, wanting film stardom again, and the guy who seems focused on stardom and leading roles, rather than performances which this current Nick Cage, this modern day, now as we know him as Nicolas Cage, likes to think he has dedicated his life to over the last decade, when the truth is glaring. Young Nick, whom displays not that long back and current Nicolas Cage isms, is it's used almost on an Inception-esque level, if you think into it that hard like I am. He isn't the young Cage I recall enjoying in Wild at Heart and Raising Arizona, but truth is, Nicolas Cage has had bills to pay, a lot of bills, and sacrificed his name and image all under this delusion when it was for the art and performance opportunity. I really miss Ghost Rider 2007 Nick Cage, National Treasure Nick Cage. I can't stand the movies Colour Out of Space and Mandy, and definitely not Prisoners of Ghostland Nick, because that manic-eyed, overt performance, overt caricature, overly used, over-saturated aspect of him is played up to the 9th degree. They're like, okay, this is a Nick Cage we have. He's always been quite out there in his roles, his performances, but focused in on the straight-to-DVD stuff, it's very apparent it's a caricature of what was a well-intended actor. And it's just ramped out. They're like, we're here for that mad Cageism. But this young Nick is a Nick we know as meme and gif Nick, in madness and loudness, just with the guise of young starry Nick as a facade. The guy whom had a better reputation. As much as he chooses to put on those levers, you can't lie. Nick, your life choices and performances recently have been nothing short of awful. It's almost stating that this Nick being Nick, stay with me, is going to be a new avenue and career path. This new Nick, this new pseudo-self-aware Nick, and bask in it. The writers and director, via the script, are appealing for Nick to face up to this truth, whether or not Nick has, as evidenced by certain interviews. He's just an actor, and I just act. Oh, shit like that. And I know it seems all rather existential and trippier than it needs to be, but this is just the facts. Get this guy more comedies. Please. There's a great identity and celebrity self-analysis going on, hidden within the folds of this quite lacklustre comedy. Between art and artist and persona, it is going through the different layers, the different depths, the different personifications and elements that have crafted and made Nick Cage a success, but also a failure. It's just a shame that the best jokes are all used up in the trailers. But there is enough good to outweigh the meh, yeah, whatever, and that's just not funny moments. So it gets a big fat 3-star rating, which is a recommendation. The thing that I found interesting was, coming out of this, the audience came out dejected, sighing, and a few people all had the same opinion, whilst they were stating that the trailer looked amazing. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a trailer that would win awards, but its use of Blackpink's Kill This Love, which the whole trailer is cut around, and enhances the footage. It's pitching an energy which the overall film lacks, so I do understand these people coming out a little bit like dejected. This is less the 21 Jump Street energy type film that we get from the trailers, and more Judd Apatow energy, and I mean Apatow in his good years. But other than that, 3 stars for the unbearable weight of massive talent. It's not that bad, and I do feel like it's a welcome return for Cage, which is not saying much considering the output of shit he's made. But anyway, remember to like, share, ultimately subscribe to Articulate Warbling. Now I've got to edit this. Joy.